So here we are on another ATA Abusive Tow Group live tow, where we're going to talk about a real life tow that we've dealt with recently, to give our group members some context of the type of abuse that's out there, and more importantly, what to look out for, where these points of inflations come from, what type of reductions are possible. And again, just educating them and getting them on the right track. So as they're faced with these situations, they're not ignorant to what's going on, and they can be more equipped to handle the situation and ultimately mitigate the loss. So with us here, we have the big bad Jamie Rhines, right? Jamie Rhines runs the Abusive Tow Authority division. He is the leader of leaders in the group and handles the tow analyst team, the mediators, the investigators, and the attorneys involved with non-consensual tow. And to my understanding, Jamie's going to grab or has grabbed a tow situation to break down and give some insight. So let's get rocking. This should be about a 5 to 10 minute show. So Jamie, let's start off with talking about the accident that happened. Let's get into detail as to, how, let's get into what was the load, what was the rig, and let's get into that.
Okay. So simple enough. It was a tractor trailer flatbed carrying cargo meant to reinforce the border wall.
Okay.
When the driver lost control around a corner. It's a corner infamous for drivers losing control and losing their loads over a certain speed. And the tractor trailer went onto a rancher's land, and the tractor itself didn't roll over, but the trailer lost its load and rolled into the rancher's property.
Got it. And so is it just a regular road? Are we coming off a highway? What does it look like?
Well, obviously, so you can imagine this is near the border, right. And we're talking about going into the mountains. It was a windy road. It's just a 2-laner.
Got it.
So it's in a remote area of the country, and obviously, when you're getting into situations like that. Even from the police department standpoint, their options on the rotation list shrink.
Got it.
There's just not as many tow companies servicing these remote areas in our country, whether that be north or south.
Sure. Got it. Okay, that makes sense. All right. So what did let's talk a little bit. I'm going to move the camera just a little bit here. So let's talk about what the bill came in as.
Okay, so the bill came in close to $80,000.
Okay.
The tow company was kind enough to split this very large bill, tractor trailer and cargo. Unfortunately, either one of the bills before it was split should have been the total amount due for the entire recovery. So we're talking about an inflation value of close to $50,000.
Okay, so it's an $80,000 bill. Let's elaborate a little bit for the users as far as what you're talking about, the split going into it. So how did the tow company do the split up front? How do they split it up through coverage?
Okay, so basically this was a 2-day recovery.
Got it.
When they went out there, I believe it was late in the afternoon. They removed the tractor and the trailer. And the second day, they had to come back for the cargo. Like I said, the cargo was structural steel pieces for the border wall itself. So a little bit more difficult to deal with on a recovery standpoint. So they chose to come back the following day.
Okay.
They split the bill as you would imagine, right? Day one, tractor trailer. That went out to the insurance company responsible or liable to pay that portion. And then the other for the cargo was the second day of activity.
Right. So is it from what you're seeing? I mean, and I know the answer to this, but just to kind of elaborate, this is a good strategic way for the tow company to submit the bills, right? Because they're not submitting one $80,000 bill. right? They're splitting it up. To my understanding, they split it up front. So they went. So what did the first insurance company get?
The first insurance company got 37.
Okay, and then the second one got the 50.
46, yes.
46, right? So the reason why for you guys out there that are watching this, the reason why that makes it a little bit easier for the tow company, and it's a little bit more, it's an easier pill to swallow for each insurance company, because as you can imagine, now you got an adjuster sitting on a desk, right? The adjuster gets a $30,000 bill on the first one, right? Well, $30,000, that's really not that bad. They've seen $80,000 bills, they've seen $100,000 bills. So the adjuster's chances of contesting that bill are really low, right? Then you have the other insurance company that gets the $50,000 bill, and sometimes that's even a bill that's not too far-fetched either, right? So what happens is both of these bills go to two insurance companies and fly just under the radar, especially the $30,000 one. Now I'm assuming $50,000 is the client. Did the client come in at 50? Is that
correct?
Okay. So obviously, it didn't fly as far under the radar for the client that actually submitted the case to us. But here's the kicker: the inflation, right? Like Jamie said at the beginning, we got an $80,000 bill that really should be what?
About 30 to 35.
About 30 to 35. So we have a $50,000 built-in inflation here that nobody's going to catch because the bill got split and it flew under the radar on the $30,000 one, right? So even after this thing's all said and done, right, you're talking about the tow company. Even if we get a reduction on the one adjuster, are we working? Did we pull in the other insurance company, or are they just dealing with their own stuff?
No, so we actually pulled them in to some degree. So there's another dynamic, and this is one I'd like to point out to all the adjusters out there, because communication is the key.
Right.
So had we not reached out to the other adjuster and determined that they had a cap in their policy and it requested that they hold off on the payment, then the entire leverage that we gain in solidarity and in standing up to the tow company as one solid front, even though there's more than one insurance company involved, would be lost.
Right.
And so anytime that we're dealing with insurance companies, one of the things that our staff has to take into consideration is the fact that there might be a policy out there. They have a $2,500 tow limit, a $10,000 tow limit, and it's easy for them just to cut the check, right? They're not liable for the inflation. That's going to go on the shoulders of the party that is in the insured, whether it be the owner operator or the carrier. And so now you've lost traction. And on top of that, with a company that has a cap on the policy, if they pay it, now the insured's expected to cover before the other insurance company can get their equipment released. Let's say it's cargo or tractor trailer or whatever it may be. If that insurance company is allowed just to cut the check, now it puts the other agency in limbo.
Yeah. So here's the thing, is just to kind of throw out to everybody too, so we're all on the same page, is that the one of the first things that we always want to do, Jamie, you can confirm this, is we want to lasso everybody in. Right. So the way that we are able to get our success is we control the cash flow to the tow company. So in other words, we don't want to be representing this client over here, and the tow company goes, okay, well, they got representation through the abusive tow bill, so we're just gonna switch gears and start putting pressure on the other elements. And because what ends up happening is they stop. They're less inclined to deal with us if they have an out. So what we do is we seal it really nice, right? So we get all the insurance companies involved, we get the carrier involved, we lock it up, and then we basically control the outcome. And then the tow company is forced to deal with us. So Correct. One of the things we try to tell all of our clients, and if any of you guys are watching out there, is, always refer them back to us. If you submit a tow to us, do not start taking conversations with the tow company directly, because what ends up happening is our credibility is lost. They stop wanting to deal with us, and they feel like they can put pressure in other areas. So, all right, let me hit you on a couple other questions, because we want to make this one. We want to kind of knock it out as quickly as possible. So we have an $80,000 bill. let's talk about the exactly how they drilled down the bill in a way to inflate. So for when you broke down the bill, or when the analyst broke down the bill, what were the points of inflation that they actually used to take a $30,000 bill up to that $80,000 mark?
Okay, so and we've mentioned this in other shows previous to this, but our staff is trained in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So communication is the key, right? And it boils back, just like you were saying, if our client chooses to communicate with the tow company, the first thing they're going to do is say, we're refusing to work with you,
mm-hmm.
right? But our staff is going to go in, and what they did was just request the tow company break down the bill, right?
So how did the bill come in? Did the bill come in as weight? Was it weighted, or was it, or how did it come in, or was it not detailed?
The bill came in without any details. So there was just charges: labor 11,000, crane 6,000. So the first thing that we need to do, because first and foremost, we have an obligation to our client to determine whether or not it is legitimate.
Right.
So I can't look at an $80,000 bill or anyone on our team and just automatically believe it's $80,000. It has to be inflated. So we get down to the nitty gritty.
Mm-hmm.
And in speaking with the tow company, our team is going to let them know, hey, we're reaching out to the officer that was on the scene. We're trying to verify if there was a third party out there to witness the second day of the recovery. When they ask why, well, look, you're going to send me that breakdown. I have to look at the hourly and the rate charge for the labor, the equipment, verify that all that equipment was being used. Then I'm going to take your breakdown and ensure to our client before they sign off on a check that the hours and the rates match. So automatically it's in the tow company's head. When we send this breakdown, it has to be accurate.
You're right. Right.
So immediately, I believe 16,000 came off the cargo bill.
So let's stop real quick. So as you're writing up the justification of the bill, this is important, guys. So the minute that you ask them to justify it, and they start having to literally put pen to paper on explaining, like, it's this much, the tow company's even sitting back going like, there's no way they're going to believe that.
Right.
And all of a sudden, numbers just start coming off, right? They're like, oh, that was a mistake. We fat-fingered one of the numbers, and 16 grand just vanished. 16 grand, $16,000 just disappears.
Correct.
Off the bill immediately, without even a negotiation, without any real
it was just a single phone call.
Yeah.
And this is also in a state without any regulations.
Got it.
So just so that everybody's aware, when you're dealing with states and the states don't regulate the charges, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to eat the bill.
Right.
Right. There's still means, and there's still checks and balances, and the rotation list is the lifeline of any tow company.
Right.
So even the thought of a write-up or anything that could get them suspended or removed from that rotation list, that's it. So they know that you're playing ball, and I'm not saying that it's a success with every tow companies, because there are tow companies out there and they're going to force you to either pay or take it that next step.
Right.
But we have a 99% success rate, and the reason for that is most tow companies don't want to go down that road.
Yeah. Right.
Right. Because like I said, if it's your lifeline, and that's the bread and butter as far as the overall income that your tow company makes throughout a year, very few companies really want to jeopardize that situation. Right. And if you're having meaningful conversation with them, you're forcing them to think about the way that they charge, and all you're doing is coming in non-threatening and just asking for validation, then they have to immediately think about it.
Right. So, okay, so let's go back into it. So 16,000 comes off the bill. What else? Where were the other points of inflation that we noticed when the bill finally came in?
Well, and then, so that was on the cargo side, or our clients. And then there was another 10,000 that came off of the tractor trailer side.
So literally 26,000 came off right off the bat, just by
immediately
them break down their own bill.
Correct.
Okay. So now you got 26,000 off, and then what were the next points on the bill?
Okay, so then once we have a breakdown, then it's easy to manipulate, right? Because we're in a situation that we, determine the hours that they were out there and immediately went back to them and started to discuss the concerns that we have as a group, right? And then once you begin to address those concerns, they've already made concessions, which is admitting, and subconsciously it's already in their head that they had to walk back on this bill. So when they send a revised version, more often than not on an inflated invoice, they know that's not the final number.
Right. So they're waiting for the next hit. So what did you find on the bill? So what did we find on the bill part that were other points of inflation on there?
So we found out that they had said that, or made a claim that they used a third party because they didn't have the equipment available, and stated that they had a crane, but the crane was actually just a rotator, which was immediately picked up on.
What's the difference in cost on that?
The difference in cost was a couple $1,000s.
Right. Okay.
Like I said, we're kind of working blindly because there's no regulations.
Right.
But each and everything that you can point out to the tow company as a concern, then, like I said, it's in their head. They're working towards getting this resolved. And at the end of the day, tow companies are greedy.
Yeah.
The ones that are inflating the invoices, they're inflating it because they want money.
Right.
And we're standing on a solid front.
And the bottom line is we will not release the money. I mean, if the tow company does not move with us, they don't get paid. That's it. We're just not going to pay them, and we'll deal with the lawsuit, and we'll go after them, and we're set up to defend any lawsuit that they bring, and we will absolutely initiate it. But they're not getting paid until we get to something that's reasonable and fair. And we're not in the business of bullying tow companies, so we're not going to just do something be unreasonable. But we're also not going to advise our clients to pay something that's inflated. So just going through, and I know we have a lot, but I want to make sure that we keep this kind of in line, because these are want to be short. And for you guys watching this, if you guys want to watch more, join the ATA page, join the Abusive Tow Forum, the group, join our YouTube page, because we're doing long form videos that are hours long. I mean, if you really want to get in the deep weeds of it, we're going into that. These are just meant to give you guys some basics. So you have a crane there. What other issues did you see? Just a couple. Just give me. I know there's probably a lot in this, so you're not going to be able to go into every single one of them. But what were just some main hitters on there?
Well, and then so you're always battling the port to port, having to put the gear back, disinfect equipment, a new one with COVID, right? And
$20,000. We have COVID, man. We got COVID-19, man. We need $20,000. We had to bring out government officials to clean it up.
Right, and unfortunately enough, tow companies, unlike let's say the restaurant industry that does all their prep for the following day or lunch or dinner prior to, and it's not a reflection of what you pay. The tow industry believes that every minute that they're out there, that they're going to charge to somebody.
Right.
And that's not something that our staff or Morgan, Cohen, and Bach identifies with. So this is the situation where you immediately challenge it.
Right. So let's talk about real quick, what did we get it down to? And then we'll wrap this up.
So this is still active.
Okay.
And we're down 18,000 and believe that it should land somewhere between $20,000 and $22,000. So this is a mediation.
In a reduction, in a $22,000 reduction?
Correct, for our client.
For our client. So mind you guys, just remember, $80,000 bill split between two parties. $30,000 went to not our client. $50,000 went to our client, and we're going to land probably about a 50% reduction, which means we cut that bill in half for our client. So with that being said, guys, Jamie, do you have anything just to close with, and then we'll let them go?
No, I mean, so just a couple quick pointers, things that they can do to help themselves, informing the drivers of their clients. And I know that's not easy for an insurance company, but staying on the scene through the recovery. If it's a 2-day recovery, having an adjuster come out there. To me, it's never going to, the cost is always going to outweigh the fact that if you don't have them show, that the tow company is naturally going to embellish everything.
Right.
If there's nobody out there, they're bringing equipment they're not using, they're adding an hour or two here or there, and that money is well invested when it puts the tow company in check. And also, if things do get inflated, then they can immediately be challenged because there is somebody on the scene to verify any issues that come up.
Yep, perfect. All right, guys, stay tuned. So just a real quick end up. I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page here. Look, if you're not already subscribing to YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube. We're doing our long form videos in there. We got hour-long videos where we're breaking down state by state. If you're not following the ATA page, which is a showcase page on LinkedIn, just Google ATA page, then you should, because that's where we're dropping all of our proactive education. We're walking through state by state by state by state, giving you all the details on the state so you understand the common points of inflation, the regulatory bodies, the laws that govern the state when it comes to non-consensual tow, and how to deal with tows on a state by state basis. This is going to be a directory for you where you're able to kind of reference as your team runs into problems. The next thing that you guys need to be looking at is the Abusive Tow Authority Forum. The Abusive Tow Authority Forum is a forum designed for people to go in there, share their life stories, issues they're running into, or issues that they just ran into, or even stories from 10 years ago. The point is, we need to educate the transportation in the community, meaning that everybody, the more we trade information, the more we explain information, we can keep ahead of the curve on the new tactics. We can better equip ourselves to deal with these situations when they come up. We can save our, carriers, brokers, and insurance companies hundreds of millions of dollars. But education is the key. The reason why the tow company is killing us right now, or the tow industry is killing us right now, is because the transportation industry is not informed. Right? They're not handled. They do not have the information necessary to properly combat these situations. So that's the point of all these platforms. And then the last one, guys, if you need some heavy lifting, if you're dealing with a non-consensual tow issue right now, and someone's locked up your truck, your trailer, your cargo, you have an inflated bill, send it to our office. We evaluate these bills for free. Takes us about 1 hour. Our analyst will reconstruct the bill and tell you whether the bill is inflated or not inflated. And if it's not inflated, you then have the opportunity to then initiate our service if you'd like. And if not, you can handle it yourself with just the information that we give you. So with that being said, guys, thanks for tuning in, and can't wait to see you on the next one.